medical devices is receiving a whole lot of attention at this point, and I think it's very well poised at this juncture for you to take on disruptive innovation in medical device space. No, sorry, every third generic drug that is sold in the US is from India. Of the entire global vaccine market, about 70% of the market is catered to by Indian companies. And a substantial portion of that goes from one manufacturer based out of Pune. If you would talk about drug development, that's not a great story. But what I'm trying to say is, in the 80s, the patent regime mostly was responsible for ensuring that this pharma industry success happens. And perhaps this is the time in history where a similar break or a rethink of the entire ecosystem in medical device space is happening as we speak. So I am very confident, sir, that there's a very encouraging ecosystem that is being developed, and it is carefully thought of at the highest levels. In fact, the portfolio that I'm handling, the phase 1 clinical trials activity, I've been told by a whole lot of people that why are you even bothering to invest in phase 1 clinical trials? And mind you, there has not been a success story of public sector investment in early phase drug development. Phase 2, phase 3, yes, because mostly there are a whole lot of academic interest. People would like to try out repurposed medicines and things like that. But then phase 1 is a very different ballgame. Phase 1 clinical trials are where the medicine is being tested out for the first time in humans. And this is typically not a space that public sector investment has, tapped into. But we are firmly of the belief that there is a need for taking forward this phase 1 clinical trial system in India through public sector de-risking of biopharma innovation. And personally, I am involved with a few drug discovery development projects. One is, you may have heard of ImmunoAct. It is a startup based out of Mumbai. I think one of the leads is a faculty of IIT Mumbai, and the other is a faculty, medical oncologist based out of Tata Actric. And they have come up with the first CAR T cell therapy for acute lymphoblastic leukemia, which is a kind of leukemia. Now, it seems that perhaps the same medicine would be useful for chronic lymphoblastic leukemia. But the company is not really interested in taking forward to try and explore whether it would work for CLL, chronic lymphoblastic leukemia, simply because they have saturated their capacity. They have a decent market. They've captured the whole of the Indian market with CAR T cell. It was out in the newspapers, I think, late last year. And they don't wish to even evaluate whether this particular product would be useful. Now, what would happen to a company like ImmunoAct typically is that they make enough profits, their shareholders or their investors are happy, and this new indication for which the medicine could have been useful will remain unexplored. So I firmly believe that through public sector de-risking of similar drug development stories, there is a lot that can be done. We are supporting another biopharma startup which is based out of IISc, which is incubated in IISc and based out of Bangalore, called Minvax. They are currently working on taking forward the world's first recombinant adjuvanted influenza vaccine. And there is no such vaccine in the world. Can you imagine? This kind of innovation is happening in India. Now, I'm talking about biopharmaceuticals because I'm more familiar with that space. But at ICMR, at this point, what we are trying to do is to try and build the ecosystem that Dr. Saji was referring to, starting all the way from investigator or entrepreneur-friendly regulations, where that's not really our forte, but then we advise the CDSCO, the drug regulator, on a very ongoing basis as to how we can try and bring about that change. All the way from there to phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 studies. If it's medical devices, it would be clinical evaluation. And then not just stop there, but then help them with the health technology assessment to try and do a cost-effective evaluation, to try and make sure that the social perspectives of this technology is looked at more closely. And it's not just, I paid, 1,000 rupees for a sugar test. 1,000 rupees for a new sugar kind of test. But then what would be the long-term impact? What would be the impact on the patient's quality of life, et cetera, et cetera? So that's health technology assessment, which is also housed at ICMR DHR. And from there, we even try and facilitate market access through liaising with the government e-marketplace. So we have these ecosystem components lined up, and I think we are doing a decent job with the rollout. So I would invite all of you to try and explore what we call the MedTech Mitra. This is the portal at ICMR where we set up calls and try and handhold innovators such as yourselves to help bridge these valleys of death that often are faced by investigators or innovators. So that's some of the things that we do, and I think I also agree with what Dr. Alex was mentioning when he said breaking down silos through intersectoral or interdepartmental collaborations. There are multiple Nobel Prize winners who have talked about the simple fact of or the simple attempt to marry two diverse disciplines has been the catalytic event which led to the Nobel Prize. So I firmly believe in that, and I think, and I also agree with the fact that we should not be afraid of our ideas being stolen. Please go ahead and brainstorm your ideas with as many people as you can. And yes, trust is a big issue, but I think after a certain stage in your startup life, you will come to a realization where you understand that it's not just identifying an idea or coming up with an idea, but then getting that translated from the idea to the product to marketing. Not many people who are not adequately vested in this particular idea will be able to pull this off. So I've heard from a very learned person that there should be 3 I's in your team. One is the innovator or the ideation team. The other is the person who is going to do the implementation, and often the person who is the innovator, he is an introvert, sitting in a corner thinking about things, reading. Might look like he's not really doing his job, but then that's perhaps the brainchild from where there's a volcano of ideas coming up. So that's one very important person. The other important person is actually the implementer. Elon Musk is not implementing his ideas. He has a team of people who is taking all of his ideas to fruition. And the third is sometimes overlooked. And I believe it's perhaps one of the most critical I's between these 3 is the influencer. You need to identify that person who will be able to level out roadblocks, pitch for your product, talk on your behalf in closed rooms, make sure that there is a market access. In Vishnu's case, I very clearly remember that the chicken and egg story that was spoken about earlier. We tried to get the product to be evaluated in a whole lot of healthcare settings, and it was getting very, very difficult. People wouldn't really take it up because they did not have the regulations and the paperwork in place. But without the paperwork but without having it evaluated, you cannot have the paperwork. So that's where I think the role of influencers are very critical, and that's one of the things that you should perhaps keep in mind. Now, at ICMR, we have uh, 27 institutes spread across most of the country. Sadly, not in Kerala. We don't have an institute in Kerala, but we have a field unit in Alapi. We have an annual budget of 25,000 crores, which is not really huge because you are supported by DST, and DST has, if I'm not wrong, 16,000. Well, I mean, I remember that DST. We are just a small fraction of DST's budget, so please feel free to reach out to funding agencies. We are more than happy to handhold, help, look at relevant regulations, help you out through funding sometimes if that is necessary. But then obviously you will have to pitch for your product like to any other investor. Essentially, what we would look for is whether at what stage of the translational value chain have you reached, and the public health impact. We're a public sector enterprise. So the moment these two, I mean, obviously I'm oversimplifying it, but then the moment these two criteria can be established, it is, yeah, I mean, it's not really a smooth ride, but then there is a funding kitty that is available for you to tap. So, well, take home message, I would encourage all of you to please check out MedTech Mitra, which is the portal that that is the brainchild of the previous as well as the current Director General and Secretary DHR, to try and help innovators to take forward their products, and all the way from clinical validation, regulatory approvals, market authorization, health technology assessment, and access to the government e-marketplace. So thank you so much, and looking forward to listening to all of the innovations that happen. Thank you.